I'm 32, and I've been married to my wife, Eliza, for 6 years. For the most part, our relationship looked great from the outside, happy photos, trips, matching holiday sweaters. You know the deal. But a few months ago, things started feeling off. It all started with the walks. Eliza's always been an early riser, more of a morning jogger type. But around January, she suddenly started going for late-night walks. At first, I didn't think much of it. She said it helped clear her mind, helped her sleep better. I chalked it up to seasonal stress or maybe just needing space. Things hadn't been particularly rocky between us, just quieter than usual. But the timing was always weird. She'd go out right after dinner and be gone for nearly an hour. No phone. No headphones. Just her coat and keys. The first few times, I let it slide. I mean, we all need alone time. But it became a pattern. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night like clockwork. And she never wanted me to join. If I offered, she'd brush me off with a smile and say she needed to just be with her thoughts. That was fine for a while. Until I started noticing the inconsistencies. Her coat always came back smelling like perfume, not the kind she wore. Her boots would be slightly muddy, even though it hadn't rained in days. And once, I could have sworn I saw a receipt poking out of her pocket, from a gas station about 5 miles away. She said she'd just picked it up off the ground to throw away, which felt oddly specific. I know how that sounds. Like I was being paranoid. But I swear, it wasn't just in my head. Her moods started shifting, too. She was more distant, more distracted. Sometimes she wouldn't even remember things we'd talked about the day before. So one night, when she slipped out the door with her usual just going for a walk excuse, I waited 5 minutes, grabbed my jacket, and followed her. That was the night everything started to unravel. That night, I stayed far enough behind that she wouldn't notice. Our neighborhood has winding streets and lots of tall hedges, so it wasn't too hard to keep out of sight. Eliza walked quickly, almost like she had somewhere to be, not like someone clearing their head. She didn't take her usual route around the block either. She went straight through the park and out the other side. That's when I got nervous. Because once you leave our neighborhood, there's not much else around but a strip mall, a gas station, and a small, half-abandoned industrial lot. Not exactly scenic walking territory. I followed her for another 10 minutes until she crossed the street and ducked into the parking lot behind a shuttered hardware store. There, in the far corner under a busted streetlight, was a car. Not hers. Not anyone I recognized. But she walked right up to it. And got in. My stomach dropped. She didn't hesitate. Just opened the passenger side door and climbed inside like she'd done it 100 times before. I couldn't see much. The windows were fogged, the lighting terrible, but I saw enough. Her silhouette leaned over. There was movement. She was talking, maybe laughing. The car didn't drive off. It just idled there, the headlights off, tucked in a corner like it was hiding. I stood there, frozen behind a dumpster, heart pounding like a war drum. This wasn't some innocent walk. This wasn't her clearing her head. This was something else entirely. She stayed in that car for almost 40 minutes. When she finally got out, she smoothed her coat, tied her scarf like nothing had happened, and walked home the exact same way she'd come. I didn't go in right away. I waited, gave her enough time to settle before stepping inside like I'd been watching TV the whole time. She walked in, kissed me on the cheek, and told me she ran into a friend at the park and lost track of time. Smiling. Casual. Like nothing was wrong. I just nodded. But in my head, everything had changed. The next day, I couldn't focus. Work was a blur. I kept replaying what I saw, Eliza sliding into that car, the way she laughed, the comfort in her body language. She wasn't scared. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't doing anything for clarity or peace. She was meeting someone. Someone she trusted. Someone she was used to. By the time I got home, I'd made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. If she could lie to my face so easily, I needed to know the full truth before I said anything. So I did something I'm not proud of. I went into her car. It was parked in the driveway like always. She was inside, in the kitchen, cooking. I told her I had to run back out to grab something from the garage. Instead, I unlocked her car, climbed in, and started looking. The first thing I noticed was how clean it was. Too clean. Eliza has never been the spotless vehicle type. Usually there are receipts, lip balm, a robe glove, something. But this time, it was practically surgical. Except the glove compartment. It wasn't locked. Inside was a small stack of papers, a printout of a schedule, a few napkins from a nearby diner, and a folded-up piece of notebook paper. I unfolded the note. It was a list of dates and times. written in neat handwriting I didn't recognize. No names. Just dates, with little hearts drawn next to a few of them. The most recent one? The night before. The next one? 2 days from now. I stared at the page, trying to breathe, trying to figure out what exactly I was looking at. Was this a meeting schedule? A note from someone? Was she planning more walks? And then, something even more confusing hit me. I recognized one of the locations mentioned on a receipt shoved behind the schedule. It wasn't near our home, it was an hour away, a small town with nothing notable about it, except for one thing. It's where her ex-boyfriend moved after college. She told me they hadn't spoken in years. I sat there in the car, heart racing, my fingers shaking so badly I nearly dropped the note. This wasn't just a random friend from the park. Something deeper was going on. Something she had carefully, deliberately kept hidden. And the worst part? I still had no idea how far it had gone, or what she was planning next. The next 2 days crawled by. I kept up the act, smiled, kissed her goodnight, laughed at her stories like I wasn't dying inside. But behind every glance, I was studying her. Every word, every excuse, every time she reached for her phone or disappeared into another room, I was clocking it. I kept that folded schedule hidden in my desk drawer. Memorized it. And when Friday night came, the next date on her list, I waited like before. Same routine. She left right after dinner, bundled in her coat, told me not to wait up. I didn't follow her this time. I drove ahead. I parked a few blocks away from where I saw that car the first time and waited. I watched her walk past, just like before, disappear around the corner of the hardware store. 10 minutes later, the same car pulled in. Silver Nissan. Tinted windows. Only this time, I didn't stay hidden. I walked right up to the back of the lot, staying behind a fence where they couldn't see me, and I took a photo of the license plate. It was a blur, but it was something. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I ran the plate through an old contact, someone I went to college with who owed me a favor. Took him less than an hour to get back to me. The name? Darren Hensley. It hit me like a punch. That was her ex. The one she told me was too immature, too reckless, always chasing pipe dreams. The same guy who'd blown her off in college and vanished from her life. She'd sworn they hadn't talked in years, that he was just some phase. Now he was meeting her in parking lots under streetlights and drawing hearts on secret notes. I felt sick. I didn't want to believe what it meant, but I wasn't stupid. No one meets an old flame 3 times a week in silence if they're just friends. And I knew, deep down, I hadn't even seen the worst of it yet. Something else was happening. And whatever it was, Eliza was in deep. And I wasn't sure I wanted to know how far she'd gone. I don't know what I was expecting when I got Darren's number. Maybe a moment of guilt, some half-baked apology, or at least the truth. But what I got was something worse. I called from a burner app. No ID, just a blank number. He picked up on the 3rd ring, sounded casual, like he wasn't expecting trouble. I told him who I was. Eliza's husband. There was a pause. Not long, just a few seconds, but it said everything. You can tell a lot from silence. Then, cool as ice, he asked what the call was about. I didn't blow up. I kept it measured. I told him I knew about the meetings, that I'd seen Eliza get into his car, that I'd found the notes, the receipts. And Darren? He laughed. Not a nervous chuckle. An arrogant, almost pitying kind of laugh. Like he knew something I didn't. He said I was misreading things, that Eliza was helping him with a project. Something about a charity startup, graphic design, late-night planning. He threw out a bunch of vague buzzwords like he was reciting from a pre-written script. I pressed him. Asked why they had to meet in hidden parking lots if it was so innocent. He didn't answer. That silence again. Then he said, maybe you should talk to your wife about trust, man, and hung up. That was it. I just sat there, staring at the dead call screen, fingers clenched so hard my knuckles turned white. It was a lie. All of it. The timing, the secret meetings, the tone in his voice. It wasn't a man defending a friend. It was a man who thought he was in control. A man who believed I wasn't willing to do anything about it. And maybe until that moment, I wasn't. But now? Now I wanted answers. And I wasn't asking anymore. I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept spinning, reliving the call with Darren, hearing his smug tone replay in my head like a taunt. He knew something I didn't. And Eliza? She was sleeping next to me like nothing was wrong, like she wasn't hiding an entire double life. The next morning, she went out to run errands. I waited until the garage door closed, then grabbed her laptop from the office. Now listen, I've never snooped through her stuff before. I respected her privacy. Always trusted her. But that trust? She broke it. I opened the laptop. No password, she never locked it. And for a second, I almost hoped I wouldn't find anything. That maybe Darren was telling the truth. That I was just spiraling and needed to calm down. I wish I'd been wrong. I searched through her downloads, her browser history, her email. Nothing obvious, until I saw a folder tucked deep in a backup directory. It was named after an old college course. Something boring and unassuming, exactly the kind of label you'd never think twice about. Inside were files, dozens of them. PDFs, scanned documents, even a few audio recordings. I opened one. It was a bank statement. Not ours. It was from an account I didn't recognize, with Eliza's name on it. The balance? $46,213.17. Another file, an email draft never sent. She was writing to someone about a soft exit plan. About not dragging this out longer than necessary. She mentioned getting the timing right so there's no mess. And another one, an audio recording. I hesitated, then hit play. It was Eliza's voice, whispering. She was talking to someone, probably Darren, saying she couldn't do this much longer. That I was starting to ask questions. That she didn't think he'd find out this soon. I paused it before I lost my mind. There it was. In her own voice, she was planning something. Not just sneaking around, but preparing to leave. Secret money. Hidden files. Coordinating with Darren. And she wasn't planning to tell me until it was already done. I sat there, shaking, laptop still open, wondering how long I'd been living with a stranger. But what she didn't know. I had just copied everything. I wasn't just going to confront her anymore. I was going to make sure she couldn't lie her way out of this. That night, I didn't wait for her to go on another walk. I waited until dinner was done, dishes were cleaned, and we were sitting on the couch, her watching some mindless show, me pretending to scroll through my phone while my heart thundered in my chest. Then I said her name. Just that. She turned to look at me, smiling, calm as ever. That same face I'd loved for years. But now? I couldn't even recognize it. I told her I knew. About the car. About Darren. About the bank account. I told her I'd seen the folder. The emails. The recordings. And I wish I could tell you she panicked. That she cried. That she tried to deny it. But she didn't. Her smile just faded. And she nodded. Like she'd been waiting for this moment. She didn't scream. Didn't beg. She sat there, quiet, then said, I didn't think you'd find out this soon. That hit me harder than any yelling ever could. I asked her why. Why the lies, the secrecy, the fake walks, the whole double life. And she finally spoke. Really spoke. She said it wasn't about Darren. Not entirely. She told me she felt like she'd lost herself. That our marriage had become a routine, a script, and she was suffocating in it. That she wanted to start over but didn't know how. Darren was just the escape hatch, familiar, easy, outside the life she'd built with me. She swore she hadn't slept with him. That their meetings were emotional, not physical. That the account was money she'd saved slowly, quietly, in case she ever worked up the courage to leave. She looked me in the eye and said she was going to tell me soon. That she had already decided to leave. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat there, numb, staring at her like she was a stranger. Because in that moment, she was. All those walks weren't just betrayal. They were her stepping away from me, piece by piece, night by night. She asked if I wanted her to pack a bag. If I wanted her gone. And I told her yes, because whatever we had, it wasn't real anymore. She moved out the next morning. No drama. No begging. Just quiet footsteps, a few suitcases, and a soft I'm sorry that barely touched the air. I watched from the kitchen as she walked out the door, her keys left on the counter, the door shutting like a period at the end of a sentence I never wanted to write. I thought that would be the hardest part. But I was wrong. 2 days later, I logged into our joint credit account, just to make sure things were stable, and that's when I noticed it. $3,800 missing. Charged to a card I didn't even realize was still active. A card we hadn't used in over a year. One that was buried in a drawer, forgotten. Except it wasn't. Turns out Eliza had been using it. Quietly. 4 months. Flights. Hotel rooms. Meals. And one particular charge that made my blood freeze, a payment to a moving company. Dated 2 weeks ago. She'd been planning this long before I found out. And not just planning to leave, but planning to take everything she could on the way out. I checked our joint checking next. Another $1,200 gone. Transferred to an account I didn't recognize, then closed. She hadn't just left, she looted. I sat there in disbelief, going through transaction after transaction. She'd been bleeding us dry right under my nose, laying the groundwork for her clean exit. This wasn't a woman escaping a cold marriage. This was someone playing a long game. And the worst part? I wasn't even mad. I was humiliated. Because I hadn't seen any of it. I thought I was being careful, thoughtful. But she'd been steps ahead the whole time, smiling, cooking, kissing me goodbye before disappearing into the night and draining our life behind my back. I thought the betrayal ended when she walked out. But clearly, she wasn't finished. For days after she left, I was finally starting to feel like I could breathe again. I was staying with a friend, sorting through my finances, calling the bank, and trying to lock everything down. It was exhausting, but at least I felt like I had some control back. Then I got the message. It came through my email. From Eliza. But it wasn't addressed to me. She must have sent it from her phone and auto-populated the wrong address. Instead of Darren, it came to me. The subject line? Almost there. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. Inside was a short, casual note. No greetings. No signatures. Just. Got the last transfer through. He hasn't caught the storage unit yet. We're good. I'll see you tomorrow night. And yes, I'll bring the papers. It's time. I read it 3 times before it hit me. Storage unit? Papers? And tomorrow night? What was happening tomorrow night? I immediately called the storage facilities in our area. I found one that had a unit under her name, opened just 2 weeks ago. I drove straight there. When I got there, the clerk hesitated, but once I showed ID and said I was her husband, they let me in. Unit 217. I opened the door. And inside was everything she didn't want me to see. Boxes, files, documents. Even old framed photos of us I hadn't seen in years, tucked away like they'd already been thrown out of her life. And something worse, a folder labeled Separation Agreement Draft. It was a full-prepped divorce packet, signed by her. Not filed. She had it ready before I ever knew anything was wrong. I stood there, in the middle of the unit, holding the folder, realizing just how long she'd been waiting for the perfect moment to disappear. She wasn't just leaving. She was erasing me. The next night, I knew where she'd be. She'd slipped in her email. Tomorrow night. I checked Darren's social media. He'd tagged himself at a live music bar across town just 2 weeks earlier. It was the same place they used to hang out when they were together years ago. I had a feeling. I drove there early, parked across the street, waited. At 7:42 p.m., she showed up, hair curled, wearing the same coat she always wore on her walks. Darren pulled up minutes later. She got in. They drove off, but they didn't get far. I followed them to the same spot behind the hardware store. As if they never needed to change it. Like it was some secret haven they thought was untouchable. This time, I didn't sneak. I walked straight up to the driver's side and knocked on the window. Darren's face went pale. Eliza? She didn't even look surprised. Just tired. Like I'd ruined her perfect little script. She stepped out, calm, composed, like nothing she'd done had been cruel, or selfish, or deliberate. Before she could speak, I held out a folder. My own version. Divorce papers. Filed, signed, notarized. She blinked. Darren just stared. I told her there was nothing left to talk about. That I'd found the storage unit, frozen the account, changed every password, cancelled every card. I told her I had copies of every file, every note, every bank transfer, and if she tried to play games, I wouldn't hesitate to take it to court. She stood there, lips tight, staring at the folder like it was her sentence. And then I handed her one last thing, a photo. It was from the storage unit. An old picture of us, from our honeymoon. I'd written on the back. You could have just told me. Instead, you made me your fool. I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. Not once. That night, I didn't feel angry. Or broken. I felt clean. Because finally, after all the lies, all the fake smiles, all the late night walks, I wasn't the one chasing answers anymore. She was the one who had to live with them.